Right, so welcome to the next episode of Beyond the Couch with me, Graeme Wood from Rapid Change Hypnosis. And today we are going to be discussing tinnitus with Astrid Harms, who is a hypnotherapist and lots of other things. And she has presented several times at conferences I've been to on tinnitus. They've been very, very interesting. So, Astrid, let's know, what is tinnitus and how does hypnotherapy help?
What is tinnitus? Would you like the clinical explanation? That would be it's subjective tinnitus in this case is a noise only you can hear and nobody else. And it doesn't come from outside, it's made up or is perceived inside your brain and not your ears.
So how does one get it? How does it start? How does it
Okay.
how does it manifest itself originally?
How does it start? Okay, so first of all, there are over 200 causes and comorbidities. So anything from noise damage to hearing loss to inflammation, middle ear infections to brain tumors to issues with your cranial nerves. Dental work sometimes can cause it, and you usually have, or always actually, two or more causes that work together. So, for example, I used to have it, and for me, the causes were most likely middle ear infections in childhood, and then lots of stress a couple of years ago, and I luckily got rid of it again. Whereas my dear mother, who has had tinnitus for 40 years, still has it at a level of about 8. However, she likes it now, so
So
that's
how does it pick? Because I know some people report it as a single tone, some as whooshing noises, white
yeah.
noises. With some people it comes and goes, with other people it's constant.
Yep.
So how do you know if you had tinnitus?
How would you know?
Yeah.
Would you, the other question is, would you even want to know? Because once you have it, it's like, I have tinnitus, and you make it a fact. If you don't know and you don't realize, it's much easier to ignore it or to not even realize it and let it go again. Because it can go away, especially in the first 6 months.
Okay, because I know the reason I ask is I know where the ringing, I've got permanent ringing in my ears.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
know where it came from. I know
Yeah.
exactly how it felt when it
Yes.
happens.
Yeah.
Um, I've accepted that it's there.
Hmm.
I It was at a very young age.
Yeah.
I blew something up right in front of my face, as you do as children.
As you
Um,
do. Yeah.
and I actually, it was traumatic because I felt I'd lost my hearing because my
Hmm.
hearing did go for a few seconds.
Hmm.
Then it slowly came back in, and then there was this ring, which was very loud. And
Hmm.
over the next few days, it settled down.
Hmm.
But 50 years later, it's still in my ears.
Okay.
I ignore it because it's a constant.
Hmm.
But particularly when I'm tired, I notice it more.
Hmm.
Um, but it always stays the same pitch. It doesn't get louder or quieter. It's just
It doesn't have to. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Well, nobody, as far as I have researched, knows why the noises are different ones. There's no reason why you would be hearing a whooshing sound. Well, okay. Sometimes you do hear a whooshing sound because it's really blood that's going through your ear,
Okay.
the blood vessels in your ear. But whether you hear a high-pitched sound or a low-pitched sound, nobody quite knows what it is. You can track it on hearing tests, like which pitch do you hear? You can test it on YouTube too. But it's not necessarily going to give you the resolution of how to get rid of it again because it's not, the cause doesn't even have to be there anymore.
Right.
So I mean, you're a hypnotherapist too. You know, the brain is neuroplastic. So, in your case, with that noise, yeah, you probably have hearing loss, correct?
I've been tested here,
Yeah.
and I'll get my hearing because I
Hmm.
was as well as being a hypnotherapist, I run an events company and I do work in very loud environments.
Yeah.
And I've had my hearing tested, and nothing shows up on a hearing test as
Okay.
any sort of anything other than age-related hearing loss because I'm an old git now.
Okay.
Um,
Right.
so obviously, some of the higher frequencies are not as apparent as they are when you're young,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
kind of a standard thing. Um,
Okay, so there's different hearing tests. Usually they test, I believe, up to 8,000 kilohertz, and then you can also go up to 16,000. Sometimes it's in the higher frequencies, but you don't have to have hearing loss to have tinnitus. So in your case, it might have been the sudden noise, the noise trauma, and then in addition to that, the extreme stress that you had from the oh my God. And that is very often, especially for veterans, war veterans, they are the highest cause of disability for them is tinnitus, because they've got almost always on the battlefield or in loud environments got two causes coming together, which is first of all the incredible stress
Yeah.
and the noise that they're surrounded by. And even long-term noise at about 95 dB can cause that to occur. Hearing loss or just tinnitus.
So how can hypnotherapy help?
How can hypnotherapy help? So first of all, as we all know, who are hypnotherapists, we can refocus attention. We can tell people to forget and not pay so much attention to it, because many people, they will look for it in the morning after they're waking up, or even after hypnotherapy sessions. It's funny because it's like, oh, they open their eyes and it's like, oh, where is it? And oh, it's still there. They kind of sometimes relieved because it becomes a part of your identity, really, sometimes. So they're looking for it consciously or unconsciously, but when they're focusing on something else, keeping themselves busy, it just tunes out because your brain is focused on something else. The other ways that we can help is we have, with those causes and contributors that we have, there can be the auditory causes that we discussed. There can be somatosensory causes. That means anything, your head, your neck, your cranial nerves, dental work, those kinds of things that where the cranial nerves lead information from your body to your brain, and the signals are being processed in a similar or the same part of the brain as your auditory signals. So one theory is that they kind of jump over, or the neurons connect, or the brain parts just do whatever and perceive those somatosensory signals as auditory signals, as noise. The third one is inflammation. So many people with other diseases, chronic disease, etc., they will have tinnitus as a side effect. It can happen that with cancer drugs you get tinnitus. That's a very common side effect. And then reducing the inflammation or working on reducing that inflammation is helpful, either directly through suggestion, as far as we can. We don't have any evidence for that, but it often works, or through making changes or helping clients make change in their eating habits, in their exercising habits, or especially their sleeping habits. Sleep is crucial for tinnitus. And the last one, of course, is the psychological group of causes, which, stress, trauma, adverse childhood experiences. I have lots of clients who had childhood trauma, and once you solve that, it just goes.
Magically disappears.
It just does. Yeah. And but however, that doesn't mean that tinnitus is always caused by trauma. It doesn't. So there's always something working together, and tinnitus is not a disease. It's a heterogeneous condition, as it's called. So it's just a symptom of many different things.
So you got like them four sort of main groups, as it were.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
the four ASIP, I call them ASIP group of causes: auditory, somatosensory, inflammatory, and psychological.
So if you've got a client coming to you with tinnitus, how would you decipher which group they're in?
Yeah, so I decipher it. The ASIP can have two from the same or different ones, etc. So I'll look at that. I'll ask them how it started, whether it's changed over time, whether they perceive it in the same way every day, and also, for any other conditions that they have, anxiety and depression play a big part in it, and also whether they're catastrophizing over it. Clients with anxiety, that's been either there before the tinnitus started or is being exacerbated by the tinnitus. You've got this cycle that we have to break, this loop of stress or distress and tinnitus noise. And when you interrupt that successfully, then the tinnitus can die down and the anxiety can go down. So that's kind of a process.
So it's definitely helpful for people if they're not a lifelong they're not stuck with it forever.
It doesn't have to be a lifelong condition, but you can never promise that it will go away. However, what you need to do, or what I found most successful in my sessions, is to know more about tinnitus than the regular doctor. Sorry, doctors, and no, this is not medical advice, but many doctors just say, there's nothing we can do. And, just go home and live with it. We can send you to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, for it, and then you learn to live with it. And this is a kind of suggestion, of course. We
Yeah,
know that because somebody with high authority says it. And if the doctor says there's nothing you can do, okay, I guess there's nothing I can do. I'll have to keep it. That's the
yeah.
suggestion that we kind of have to work with. But even with hearing loss, there is no guarantee that either you'll have tinnitus or that you have to keep it, because there's lots of people with hearing loss who do not have tinnitus. There's a biobank study in the UK that was done like on a general population, because what many tinnitus trials have is they have clinical patients, the ones that have it so bad that they need to go to a doctor or a special institution. And a biobank study just takes a cut of the general population and asks about different things. So they were asking about tinnitus as well. And lots of people had it. And after 3 years, they were asking the same people again about various things, including tinnitus. And not just had about 30% either a reduction or no more tinnitus at all. Some did not even remember ever having had it.
Which, as a hypnotherapist, is not surprising.
That's not
It's
surprising at all.
not
No.
surprising at all. It might sound strange, but
Yeah.
we've all had clients that when we've finished with them, they don't
Yeah.
remember ever having
Yeah.
what it was they came to us for.
Exactly.
It's
And the
it's crazy.
yeah, and the next thing is that's why I said, how do you know you have it? If you don't know you have it, and your life is fine the way it is, you just have this, since you were a little kid. Some people have it since they were like little. They have this noise, and it's just normal for them, and it doesn't annoy them or bug them. Then they're fine.
Mm.
It's only when you notice that there's something different, and you get
Yeah,
this feeling of stress that's then making it annoying. It's like yeah, you're noticing that the stain on your wall, and it becomes annoying until you do something about it. However,
yeah,
with tinnitus, it's slightly hard to do something about it when you don't know how to do it.
yeah. Because to be fair, it doesn't bother me because I think I've
Yeah.
accepted it.
That's
I
one,
do.
that's step number one.
Yeah,
The most important part to reduce the stress around it is to make it from an enemy. So many people say it's a punishment, it's the devil, I just wanted to bug off, in different words. Uh,
you can
and
swear on this. I do quite often.
No, 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 no. There's children watching. I'm sure, might be. Anyway, no. So that you want to get them from this, this. It's my enemy, to it's my friend.
Mm.
Once, and this is something that maybe people will find interesting. Once you understand that it's potentially, or that it is there to help you, and to support you, then you can let it go. And this sounds very woo-woo, I know, but since there is inflammation involved, since there are somatosensory issues involved in here and there, there are also 4 functions that I found in my, first of all, research, medical research or scientific research, and in clients, there's always 4 different things or functions that tinnitus really fulfills. I'm giving away half of my workshop here that I'm
Go
running
for
through.
it.
Yeah. All right. No, so the functions are often to warn you of danger. That's from the outside. The second one is from the inside, so that would be the information part. I mean, it's perceiving danger from the outside. There's the veteran who's been in danger, or you were in danger when you were a child, and this thing exploded, and that's what it's warning you of. It hasn't realized that that's not necessary anymore. So it can be an unnecessary or a necessary alarm from the outside or the inside, and then inside, yeah, there is inflammation, there's something wrong with you. You need to change something. Or psychologically, very often things like toxic relationships. Once you get out of that, you get rid of the stress, you remove it. Or I've had people, quit their toxic jobs. And what you very often have is also a wall function. So you have tinnitus as a wall because you literally don't want to hear. That is very common in people who are overloaded. who have way too much to do, who have all the responsibility of the family on them, or who work in caretaking jobs, such as nurses, doctors, or teachers as well, psychologists hearing, or therapists hearing terrible stories every day, dealing with victims of abuse, or just people who are depressed, or that you hear the negative sides of life every day, and you have to be the positive one, but it does work on you and it does weigh on you. So at some point, then that is also a stress factor that can cause or exacerbate tinnitus.
I think it's a side to that. That's why we always say every hypnotherapist needs a therapist.
Yeah,
We
that's
take on
definitely true. Yeah.
so much stuff from people that
We are, yeah.
we need to let it go. You mentioned your workshops.
Mhm.
I was going to come on to that later, but seeing as you mentioned it now, so if people are
Oh,
interested, if
I didn't even know. Yes.
I listen sometimes. So if hypnotherapists are interested in
Mhm.
learning about tinnitus, what sort of training do you offer for them?
I have a workshop that is 6 hours long on the 6th of June. And it's not teaching you hypnotherapy. It's not teaching you any techniques themselves. I mean, I assume that everybody who has had hypnotherapy training knows how to use their tools. It gives you a framework. It gives you the exact explanation for the four groups of causes, for the functions of tinnitus, and how to use it with your clients, plus how to work with the different types of clients, because every client is different. And however, there's these avatars, I call them. So women in menopause often get it, or people with anxiety, or stressed managers. Then you have the veteran. All kinds of people come to you, but you can very often fit them into one kind of pattern, and then you can use similar tools. But mainly, it's about using or learning to use the client's own perspective and world in your sessions. So I don't have scripts. I mean, I have general scripts, or the ones as examples from sessions. But if you like trains, and we do a train metaphor or something, and a woman likes knitting instead, I'm not going to do a train. I wouldn't want to sell a script that contains anything that's too specific, where people say like, why is this hypnotherapist telling me about a train? I don't like
Keep
it.
it as content free as possible. Yeah.
That
So
as well, yeah.
okay, well
Or use only content that they give you, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put the links to that in afterwards. But so, how did your interest in hypnotherapy come about?
Well, okay, now that you ask. No, I'm part of a club, and they have online meetings, and one time they had offered a meeting on learning about erotic hypnosis, and I'm like, oh, curious. So I was one of about 600 people in that meeting, I think. And this lady from Germany, actually, she might, I know she's been on some of the courses I've been on. She told us about not just the erotic part, but also about pain management and fears. And I was, oh my God, really? You can do all of that? Then I started Googling, and then I found, a course, the first course, and then I was hooked, basically. And now I've been working for quite a few years. So, yeah. And I've learned more and more, and I still keep learning.
I would never stop learning in this. So,
Never.
so once you got into your hypnotherapy, how did you then link to the tinnitus and start
That
to
was,
specialize in that?
oh God, that was more a coincidence, because, well, as I said, my mum's had tinnitus for about 40 years. So from a young age, I had to be, you couldn't stress her out. You had to, she had to have calm, everything. And it was very, very serious. And she became from the social person to a really social recluse. And I had, as I said, tinnitus quite a few years ago, and mine just went away. Hers never did. She did all the things, like every client that I have, and never went away. And then I had somebody else tell me, my tinnitus will never go away because I have holes in my eardrum. And when you tell me that something can never happen, I'm going to go out and try to find out everything to prove that it will work.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just the way I
Yeah.
am. Then I read a book on hearing. I can't remember her name now. A lady, it's a really good book. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. And then I just started branching out into research. And now I think I'm about 2,000 papers into tinnitus and hypnotherapy and brain research. So just my hobby, you know.
Yeah, great. Turn a hobby into a profession. Like I say, I've been to your presentations now. Very good. They're very informative.
Thank you.
To be fair, some of it goes over my head, but that's the level you go into, and the level I don't. So, if people have you got any self-help tools for people who might suffer stuff you can?
I do not have any self-help tools. What I do teach is self-hypnosis.
Yeah,
But I do that within the session. So I will
yeah.
do a lot of physical feeling stuff and then help them to anchor that and go back to that at any time, especially with tinnitus clients. And, I do a lot of mind-body stuff, chronic disease and all of those. But I don't have any, I mean, I do have a YouTube channel with a few sessions, so you can see how my sessions run. I also have a podcast just like you. And yeah, I mean, listening to that might help the odd one. And I know I get lots of clients from that because they're just like, oh yeah, okay, I think she can help me. But no downloads or anything of that kind.
Okay. Well, I mean, having the YouTube channel is great. Obviously, I will pop the YouTube channel in
Yeah.
under this as well. So if people want to contact you, people have seen this, the millions that watch it have
Hmm.
seen this and think, great, there is an answer.
Yes.
How can they contact you?
They can go to astridharms.com. That currently forwards to my old website. I'm still working on the new one, and have been for 2 years. So
Common story.
astridharms.com. Yeah, well, the URL is also so complicated. Everybody's misspelling it. So astridharms.com was free again, so I took it, and then yay. And yeah, that's my forwarder now.
Excellent.
My
Well,
website.
Astrid, thank you very much for your time. It's been very
You're welcome.
informative, and hopefully enlightening to people out there who have had this horrible noise ringing around in their ears for ages, maybe stressing about it, worrying about it, thinking they're broken. You're not broken.
You're not broken, no.
And
And
there is possibly a solution. And if there is, you are the person to go and find. So, Astrid Harms, thank you very much for your time.
thank you
It's
too,
been
Graeme.
lovely chatting to you and
Same.
very informative. So I'm Graeme Wood from Rapid Change Hypnosis. This is Beyond the Couch. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, please hit that subscribe button down below. If you haven't, send me a message, let me know why, and we'll make it better for next time. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye.